information on Surrogacy.com here, and this is our next installment of the Gestational Surrogacy Video Diaries. Today I want to talk to you about something that I don't like talking about at all during a surrogacy journey, and that's money. Specifically today, I want to talk to you about the money that a surrogate mother must be able to carry from 1 month to another month, especially in the very beginning of surrogacy, before she's going to be reimbursed or any money is actually coming in any form of compensation. This is one of the reasons why it is not a good idea for somebody who is in need of money or who is living from paycheck to paycheck to pursue surrogacy, because there can be quite a substantial amount of money that a surrogate mother must have available of her own funds to cover before she is reimbursed. Before we get started, I really want to say it's very important that before a surrogate mother ever outlays any of her own cash, that she has a contract in place. I did make the mistake the first time that I pursued surrogacy of not having a contract in place when medical bills started to pile up in my name, and then the intended parents and I could not come to an agreement in the contract phase. It actually had nothing to do with money, but on another issue in the contract phase, and they walked, and I was left with over $2,000 in medical bills in my name. My lawyer did eventually get that money back for me, but that just goes to show you how important it is that you have a contract in place before you're outlaying any cash, even cash as low as $40 or $50 for birth control pills that your clinic might require you to take. So without further ado, what types of things is a surrogate mother going to be responsible for paying out of her own pocket and getting reimbursed for later? Each contract is different, each situation is different, but commonly you're going to have prescriptions, usually not the IVF medications themselves. Those are usually covered, put on a credit card for me, intended parent, and shipped directly to your house. In the event that they're not, it would be a medication here or there, maybe a refill, but not the entire medication. That can be quite expensive for IVF medications. Travel expenses. A lot of times your plane ticket is covered, but maybe your day-to-day travel expenses while in a different town are not until you get home and submit your receipts. Medical bills, again, they're all in the surrogate's name. It doesn't matter. The medical providers don't care if it's you that is deciding that you need to have these medical tests or these medical procedures done, or if it's somebody else that's decided that and they're going to pay for it. They don't care. It's your name on the bills. You're the one that's going to end up paying for them. And even childcare, your own kids, if you're going to be gone for an extended period of time, I say extended 3, 4, 7, 8 days during a transfer. If you have childcare expenses of your own, that might not be reimbursed to you until you get home. It can take up to a month or more to have some of these expenses reimbursed. Let me give you a few examples. For my first surrogacy, I was required to fly to Las Vegas for 8 days. They paid for the plane ticket, and my hotel room was covered. But I did not have any day-to-day money to spend on food and transportation. There was cab rides everywhere in Vegas. Until I actually got to Vegas, found my way to the agency that I was working with and picked up a check, then going to their bank to cash it. So it was quite an interesting thing that I had to go through all of that just to be able to get the money that I needed for the travel expenses that should have been paid before the travel was done. But that happens. You have to be prepared for that. Even though it wasn't supposed to happen that way, I was supposed to get my money a week in advance of the travel so that I'd have the money and I wouldn't have to spend that out of pocket, spend it out of my savings account. But that's just the way that it ended up being. The second surrogacy, I went back to Vegas again for another 8 days. For that one, I worked directly with the intended parents, and it was decided that I would pay for the plane tickets. It was myself and a companion. I also would pay for the hotel room and all of the transportation and all of the food, and then submit the receipts to the intended parents to get reimbursed later. This was over $1,800 out of my own pocket to do all of this for 2 people. Another thing I might mention here is I hate giving myself shots. It's uncomfortable. It can take me, my first trip in Vegas, it was horrible. When I was there by myself in a hotel room trying to give myself shots, I pricked myself with a needle probably 20, 30 times just trying to get the needle in. And it's not that it hurt, it was just a psychological thing for me. It was very difficult for me. So I wanted to make sure that the second time that I went and did another transfer for another set of intended parents, that I had a travel companion with me. Unfortunately, I didn't think of that during contracts, and I did not ask that my travel companion's expenses were paid as well. And after contracts, and after I decided to bring a travel companion, I actually brought my mother. I felt bad about asking for it because, again, I hate talking about money. So I paid for my mother's expenses out of my own pocket. and I'm pretty sure she'll never watch this video because I lied to her and told her the intended parents paid for her trip. Otherwise, she probably would not have gone. So I paid for her expenses out of my own pocket. I paid for her plane ticket. I paid for all of her food when we were there. The hotel room would have been the same amount of money if it had been one or two of us there. But so it's something that you have to think about. And again, it took more than a month for me to get the portion of the $1,800 that was my portion reimbursed. My third surrogacy journey, I did have the common sense to ask for a companion's airfare to be paid as well. And I also had the common sense, instead of taking all of the receipts and having to turn them all in and wait for reimbursement, that I was just going to do a flat, this is how much you can give me per day for travel expenses. I'll take care of the hotel, I'll take care of all the food and the transportation. And it came out a lot easier that way, even on days that we spent a little bit more than what was in the budget for the day we made up for on other days. So it worked out, and I highly suggest you do that. Just a flat, this much money per day covers hotel, covers transportation, covers childcare, and covers your food. So I did have the common sense to do that. I also had the common sense to ask for it several weeks in advance of travel. But unfortunately, it did not happen that way. For whatever reason, I did not get my travel expense money until about 5 days before we traveled, which meant that I took money out of savings to pay for my plane ticket and my companion's plane ticket, and it also meant that I took money out of savings to make sure that we had a hotel room and that sort of thing. So that was a little uncomfortable. Then, at the very last minute, my companion, who was a friend of mine, her plans changed, and she unfortunately could not make it. She had a family emergency that took her and her husband away from town, and her husband was supposed to be watching my children during the day. So literally the day before we were supposed to travel to Vegas, I had to switch her plane ticket out for 2 plane tickets, one for each of my children, and I brought them. My husband had to work, unfortunately, during the time. And I had to bring both kids with me, and that cost me $1,700 out of pocket for that. And there was no way on earth that I felt that had anything to do with my intended parents, so of course I paid that all by myself. But again, that wasn't an expense that I would have paid had it not been for surrogacy, but it wasn't their problem and it wasn't their fault, and in fact I never really even told them. I'm telling you for the first time here because I don't like talking about money, and it seemed like an uncomfortable topic for me. But it's again, something you have to understand, that there could be expenses. And then we arrive at this fourth and final journey, and we've been matched with intended parents for a month now. Now, I wanted to make sure I was staying on top of things this go around. Again, not liking talking about money. I wanted to make sure everything was clearly written out and there would be no unexpected surprises. I didn't want to take any more money out of savings. I hate taking money out of savings to use for surrogacy and then putting it back in, because half the time it never actually gets back in the savings account. So this time I very clearly stated that the retainer that I had asked for becoming their surrogate was due immediately upon matching. Now, I say immediately upon matching because that's when they pay the agency to match us. That's when they pay the lawyers. That's when they pay the clinic. And a month later, the agency has been paid, the lawyers have been paid, the clinic has been paid, but I still haven't. And I don't exactly know why. I think it's just, an oversight. It's just one of those things, okay, well, we'll just take care of that when the contracts are signed, which should be in another week or so. But at the same time, it's kind of like, are they not paying me because they don't feel they can trust me with the retainer? Which I think is kind of silly, because if you can't trust me with a retainer, how on earth are you going to trust me to carry your child? But again, I'm assuming it's just an oversight. It has happened before, as you can see with the other 3 journeys that I have. And the point I'm trying to make is not that anything is wrong with that. It's just that the things that you expect to happen don't necessarily happen. And that's going to be the way it is throughout the entire surrogacy journey. The way that you think it's going to go and the way that it actually does go are 2 totally different things. So with that, again, it can take over a month for you to get reimbursed for things. You need to remember that. And remember, again, don't ever outlay your own cash, even if it's your name on a medical bill, unless you have a contract in place. And with that, I will conclude this very fun video on money, and we'll see you next time.